But offensively, I think the biggest question is over the last 2 games, what is wrong with Mac Jones and the Patriots passing game? Because the way I look at it, for the first 12 weeks of the season, and granted the 2-4 start, it wasn't perfect and it looked a lot more like this than it did during the 7-game win streak where they were great in the passing game. But for the most part, Mac Jones was 12th in EPA. He was 5th in the completion percentage over expected. He was top 5 in PFF grade at one point in time. He was trending towards being a fringe top 10 quarterback already in his rookie season throughout the first 12 weeks of the year. Week 13 happens in Buffalo. They go into the windstorm. He only throws the ball 3 times. First time since 1974 that a team has thrown the ball that few times in an NFL game. They go into the bye week. Hasn't been the same since. That's how I would lay it out from a timeline perspective, right? So the question is, how much is this what's going on with Mac? How much is this what's going on with his receivers? Obviously, it's a combination of everything. But where are we at with this passing offense? Because clearly, when they went up against a pretty good passing offense in Buffalo, they were not going to outduel Josh Allen the way that their team was playing that day.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's two different. First off, they're not there where they can play from behind yet. They're not there where they can throw when the other team knows they have to throw, and that is concerning, right?
Yeah.
I don't think but it's fixable. Mac Jones is going to get better. They're going to put better pieces around him. I think in terms of yesterday's game, what really hurt the passing game, I think we maybe underrated what a loss Nelson Aguilar would be. And I
Yeah.
don't mean that in the sense that he puts up numbers, but he is somebody that the defenses have to respect over the top. And part of the reason they've had success throwing to Hunter Henry up the seam, right? Throwing to Kendrick Bourne and Jacoby Myers over the middle is teams have had to leave a safety back to accommodate Nelson Aguilar. And that wasn't the case. And you could see the difference. Hunter Henry gets taken away because teams feel like, the Bills felt like they had an extra safety they could put on him. I don't know how many times the Patriots came out in 22 or even 12 or 21 where it's N'Keal Harry and Jacoby Myers, and they're both pressed off the line on the outside, and then there's 9 or 10 guys right in the box for the Bills. Like they were
It is
not.
concerning when you don't have Aguilar out there, not to cut you off, but when you have Jacoby Myers, N'Keal Harry, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, and Jakob Johnson as your skill players, that is the slowest collection of
Yeah.
skill players in the NFL. And I'm not sitting here trying to get into a conversation about N'Keal Harry and that draft pick and Jonnu and that's a different conversation. But just in general, that not a single person in that grouping runs faster than a 4.55, right? That's N'Keal, I think, ran a 4.53 technically, but I don't know. That was a fast stopwatch that day at the combine. So regardless of all that, that is an extremely slow group. And not having Nelson Aguilar out there, as you said, to stretch the field, they've threatened so little of the field in that game against Buffalo. There's
Right.
such little, talk about being able to attack every blade of grass. That's what offensive coaches always talk about. The Patriots were only able to attack maybe 25% of the grass against
Yeah.
Buffalo on Sunday.
And the problem, I mean, they were down their 2 most explosive receivers. I'll get into that in a second, but basically
Yeah.
go back and watch the game. I mean, the Bills are putting 10 in the box. They're rushing 6 because they know there's no threat over the top.
Right.
And it's the lack of speed, and they they didn't have Nelson Aguilar. Obviously, he's out. He has a concussion. That is what it is. But they kept their most explosive playmaker off the field. Kendrick Bourne played less than 50% of the snaps. I think he is their best receiver. I think he's their most explosive player on offense. I get he didn't practice all week. I get
Right.
it. And that's been a Belichick tenet in the past. But I think part of what's made this year different, and part of the reason they have had success this year when they have, is Belichick has kind of gone away from some of his, some of what he's leaned on
Yeah, especially
historically,
with COVID.
right?
Yeah.
Like even something like playing rookies, right? We did the whole
Yeah.
thing in the summer about how Ramondre Stevenson wouldn't play, and he's been a key player, and Barmore would probably get redshirted, and he's been a key player. But the practice thing too, Ramondre Stevenson had his best game of the season after not practicing all week. I forget what the injury was, but he didn't practice all week. He played at his best game.
Concussion. Yeah, he was
J.C.
concussed.
Jackson had
Yeah.
his best game of the season. That one was against Carolina after not practicing all week. They were clearly okay with it this year. And look, Bourne's a new player. If it's week 2, I get it. It's week 16. There's got to be 8 to 10 plays that are just generic, non-game plan specific plays that they have that he can run. Or just put him out there and have him run go routes.
Right.
But
Well, the thing
they
is
didn't
that
have he was the
yeah,
closest thing they had to an explosive threat, and they kept him on the bench. And
he
that's
played
a theme, and
47% of the snaps, right? So
47. So that's
yeah,
a theme. We'll talk about it on the defensive side of the ball, but the coaching did not adjust in this game. They
yeah.
did the same thing from beginning to end. That's supposed to be a tenet of what they do. They didn't do it. And that's frustrating.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Max specifically because I've looked through some of the all 22. I haven't been able to sit down and watch the entire thing, but for the most part, I really felt like Mac made decent decisions with the football in this game. And it wasn't necessarily that he was missing wide open guys down the field. There's maybe one play they faked the handoff or the toss, and they had the crosser with the post from N'Keal Harry, and he ends up throwing the post into double coverage instead of throwing the cross that maybe you would have liked back. But for the most part, there wasn't a ton out there that I thought was a terrible decision making from Mac Jones. But what I definitely saw a lot of, especially when it came to zone coverage, and we're going to talk about man coverage here in a second because that's a whole nother issue. When it came to zone coverage, a lot of receivers converting routes in ways that Mac Jones was not anticipating. I posted one clip on Twitter. The Patriots were running a sail concept. They have the vertical clearing out the sideline and Hunter Henry filling in with the intermediate route, whether it's an out or a corner. I couldn't tell you, right? It depends on the call, I suppose, or only they could tell me that. But Mac throws the corner and Hunter Henry runs an out. Right. So it looks like the ball is a bad throw, right? It looks like it's overthrown and Hunter Henry tries to adjust to it and can't. That was probably one of the only downfield opportunities the Patriots put on tape the entire game, where I said, oh, they really had a chance to hit a shot here. Right. And they dialed it up. They got the zone coverage look they were expecting. It was cover 2. Mac saw it, got it to the right guy, but they weren't on the same page. Hunter Henry flattened his route off on the out route. Mac through the corner and the ball falls incomplete because the two guys aren't on the same page. That is frustrating at this point in time in the season to see how disjointed the passing attack was in general. And I know a lot of people want to make it about Mac's accuracy, but Mac's accuracy would change a lot. The narrative on that would change a lot if some of these route conversions are going the right way, right? He's throwing it to the outside. He's throwing it to the sideline. And Hunter Henry stopping his route and sitting his route down instead of running out towards the sideline. Hunter Henry thinks he's running an out. Mac thinks he's running a corner. These are the types of conversions that you see over and over again that are frustrating for Jones. So, look, I don't really understand. I got to be honest with you. And I know some people think I'm a Mac hater. Some people think I defend Mac. So I don't know where people are at with my opinion on Mac. But I got to be honest with you. I did not watch this game back in any capacity and have concerns about the quarterback and said, oh, the biggest problem out there on Sunday was the QB, right? That was not how I felt watching it live. That's not how I feel now about watching the game from what I have seen of it back on the coach's tape. This really felt like a game where his receivers were not doing their jobs properly, whether it was separating against man coverage or it was route conversions against zone coverage and being in the right places. Mac was visibly frustrated all day long that he was throwing the ball to one spot and guys were going to another spot. You could just tell that it was really killing him all game long. So where is your opinion on that, though? Because I think a lot of people are being pretty harsh right now on Mac Jones on Monday morning quarterback.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm pretty pro Mac. Roll Tide and all. I thought it was his worst game of the year, but I also wouldn't put him in my top 5 reasons they lost.
Yeah.
Right. I think I find it hard to believe that every route that broke the wrong way was on the receiver and not him. And we don't have the play sheet in front of us, but I feel like that's got to be a 50-50 street. I thought he put the team on his back when he had opportunities, and you love to see that. The quarterback sneak, he absorbs that hit from Matt Milano late in the game, gets right up, kind of try to light that spark.
Yeah.
But he just, I thought at least against the Colts when he struggled early, he fought back and he actually made plays as they were trying to come back. I don't know that he made plays late in that game. Like, he had opportunities. It's hard because the whole offense just wasn't there. Yeah. I didn't think outside of Damian Harris, outside of Damon Harris, I mean, just
Yeah, Damon
nobody
Harris
has
and the run blocking were solid. Other than that, the whole
right.
offense was a mess.
It just sort of compounded.
Yeah,
So, I mean, you want like here's the thing: if this game is in 3 years, I think that this is a major red flag for Mac Jones, even if it's
right.
next year, because at a certain point, you want your first round quarterback to elevate the team. And I know I've talked about Mac Jones being net neutral. I still think you need a little bit of that. And that would
Yeah.
have been the perfect spot to do it. As a rookie, like rookie evaluation is different. Again, it goes back to, is this a learning experience for him? Because this is the thing, like early in the season, we're talking about Mac getting better and he was progressively getting better. Is he still getting better the last couple weeks? I thought he was from the Colts. I thought maybe he did at the Colts game. He didn't get better from the Colts game to the Bills game.
So it is important to mention, I would say, with that conversation, that development's not always linear, right? You're not always
right.
Development's not always going to be in an upward trajectory all the time. There's going to be step backs. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be issues. There's going to be good games. There's going to be bad games. But I think what we've seen from Mac, and I would say the one thing that maybe you could be a little bit concerned about now, even still, the fourth down play, for instance, he does play make a little bit, right? He got outside the pocket, right. He directed traffic, he moved Jakobi Meyers, and he playmakes in his own way. He's not Josh Allen. He's not going to scramble to his right, go up platform and zing it 25 yards down the field. That's not going to be who he's going to be ever. But I think what you look at is that this passing game with Mac Jones at quarterback, and given his current state, he could develop into a different type of player down the road. But in his current state, they need to execute at a very, very, very high level to produce against a good defense like Buffalo has, right? They need to be on their P's and Q's, on the same page on every single route. They need to really let the system do the driving. Right? That's how they need to be. And that comes down to X's and O's. At this point in time, Mac is not an elite playmaker, right? He is not somebody that's going out there and making all these ridiculous plays like Josh Allen did on Sunday. Could he be that down the road from the pocket? Absolutely. Right now, he's not there yet as a rookie, and that's totally fine. But I think the other concern that I had from watching this game, and Bill Belichick came out and said it this morning when we spoke to a very grumpy Bill Belichick, as you could expect on Monday morning. He said, we didn't get open against man coverage, right? I'm paraphrasing, but that was essentially what he said, was that the Buffalo played a little bit more man coverage and they didn't get open. And I look at some of these guys and I look at some of the way they ran their routes on Sunday too. And I'm perplexed by some of the decisions in terms of releases and stuff like that. But they did not separate at all against man. I put up the stats. Mac was 2 for 10 for 27 yards and a pick against man coverage yesterday. Not good enough against man. This is a problem that got a lot better, I would say, this year, right? Last year, Patriots were 31st in the league in passer rating in man coverage, right? Against man coverage with Cam and that group last year. This year, they're better. They're middle of the pack in that statistic. So they are getting better in terms of getting open against man and having a quarterback that can win against man coverage. But this was a back down to earth type of game in that respect too. And I look at Jakobi Meyers got open a little bit. He was probably the most consistent guy that they had that could separate. But with no Aguilar, with Bourne limited, the tight ends did absolutely nothing against man. The backs did absolutely nothing against man. It was tough sledding every single time Buffalo called man coverage.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too, I think and this goes to coaching, did you feel like there were too many plays that they called that took too long to develop? I just don't think.
Well, that's the other thing. So I'm glad you brought that up because.
So just real quick, like from my point of view, before you get, because I have my point of view and then you have the right answer.
Yeah.
I think that. I don't think Josh McDaniels had a feel for what the Patriots offensive line was doing in that game or what the Bills pass rush was doing in that game, because he's calling plays that needed time to develop and that time just wasn't there. And that's not on Mac. That's not on the receivers. I think that's the thing where, and again, this is a theme of the whole game. I think the Patriots coaches never picked up on the flow, on the tempo, on the mood, whatever you want to call it. They never picked up on what was happening on the field. This is what I criticized the Bills for immensely after week 13. And I'll bring it back and say the Patriots did it. The Patriots did what they wanted to do. They put their head down. They put the blinders on. They closed their eyes. La, 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 la. They did what they wanted to do. They didn't allow the game to dictate any of their decisions, and that's bad coaching. It's bad coaching, and this is another example.
Yeah, so your point about Mac not getting rid of the football, I think one of the most interesting statistics that I've uncovered.
Mac not getting rid of the football. I'm saying they were calling plays where he had to hold the ball too long.
Okay, yeah. Either way, right? Maybe a little bit of yes. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So just in general, whether it was scheme related, play calling related, or Mac related or receiver related, Mac Jones over the last 2 weeks, his average time to throw, Alex, has been 3.1 seconds. In the first 13 games of the season, it was 2.5 seconds, right? So he's holding the ball. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but in an NFL game, an extra half a second's a lot, right? That's a big difference and that's a lot of difference in terms of timing, rhythm, continuity, all those types of things in the passing game. So not only is he not throwing the ball as accurately down the field, but the ball's not coming out as quickly. And it's not coming out on time as often as it did before. Whether that's play calling, whether that's defenses taking away first reads and making Mac Jones hold the football in the pocket and scan through, whatever the case may be, we know this, right? Whether it was Brady, whether it was Cam, whether it was Jimmy G, whether it was Matt Castle, the Patriots offense is designed to get the football out. They don't want the quarterback sitting there in the pocket for 3 seconds per drop back. That's not the type of offense they want to be. They want to be a timing, rhythm-based, quick passing game. They want the ball out. And Mac Jones holding the football, whether, again, it's a multitude of factors that are contributing to that, but the fact that number over the last 2 weeks is 3.1 seconds is way, way, way too high for this scheme to be running properly. So something is going on, whether it's scheme, whether it's Mac, whether it's receivers not getting open, something is going wrong that is causing them to hold the football. And that's not what they want to be doing. So that's definitely another thing that I look at with this passing game. They absolutely need to get back to getting the football out, right? Getting the football out and getting it to the guys it needs to get to. Mac talks about that a lot. He says, I need to get the ball out and I need to get it to the people that should have the football because I'm not athletic. I'm not fast. I'm not the guy that should be having the football. The other guy should have the football. So that's what they have to get back to as well.